Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan. With me today is nobody. Logan is getting ready for his trip. He's going to be out of town. I'm about to be out of town as well. So I figured, I put the baby to sleep. We're about to start finishing our packing. But I figured let's go ahead and just as quickly as possible get out like a 40-minute podcast about the League's Cup and all of the mess that has been going on in that League's Cup. I didn't want to miss. I didn't want to have to wait until next week, and then next week I'll be coming back from the trip, so maybe I wouldn't even be able to record. So, I didn't want to leave it to chance and get to this 2-3 weeks later. So yes, I wanted to get this done, and I thought I wouldn't have time earlier, but time has opened up. So let's go ahead and dive into what was a absolute crazy Leagues Cup finish in the season. So while the final also made some headlines, there was, some craziness on Wednesday night as well, as Orlando was leading Miami after a goal in the 45th, 46th minute by Pasalic, which was, I thought, a really good call of not giving it as a handball. I think that would have been really harsh. And then things unraveled with the red card, second yellow to Orlando, leading to a penalty kick for Messi in the 77th minute. And then he scored the game winner in the 88th, and then Segovia scored in the 91st to make it 3-1 Miami. Okay. There's a lot of controversy about this. And I'll say I'll add to it here. I am not the typical, I think if you listen to the show, you know how we stand, where we stand on this stuff. We try to be as impartial as we can. Look, I know I have biases. I am a Philadelphia fan, right? Philadelphia Union fan. But I try not to let that really bleed over too much into what I'm doing here on the podcast. Even before I was podcasting, I felt like I was I would say when I was younger, I was a little bit more like hardcore with that kind of stuff. Getting upset and being upset about stuff like this. When now, and I feel like I've been doing, I don't know when I really started maybe changing in that regard, but I'll be at a game with my wife or a game with my dad and be able to say, oh no, that is not a penalty, even if it's a penalty in Union's favor, et cetera, et cetera. We talk about it a lot on the podcast. I really, really do not think that this is a penalty at all. I feel like most people are on the same page as that. The other downside to it is that they did not replay it a lot during the game. Right? It felt like they played it maybe briefly and then it was done. But I went back and watched it a few times. I just don't really think it's a foul. Which also means it wouldn't be a second yellow, which means it's not a red card. So that's what changes the match. Maybe not even so much the penalty, but the fact that they went down a man. Yeah, I was kind of commenting on one of the Reddit subreddits about this, and this one guy was responding, Miami fan, just like, well, it wouldn't have mattered because they had scored an extra goal, so it wasn't even like they won only by one goal. But the red card is what changes that, right? Like that last goal when they're on a break and they make it 3-1, that probably doesn't happen if they have 11 men on the field. So for me, I'm not one that is usually like a Miami conspiracy person. I it was just tough to swallow. It was tough to swallow because I thought Orlando had it, you know? And then, of course, Miami got bailed out by that call. And then, of course, if you give Miami and Messi a man advantage, most of the time they're going to kind of pick off from that. And it was a totally different game in the last 20 minutes, last 15 minutes of the game because of that call. So it was unfortunate. You know, I was hoping Orlando would get through because, like I said, I used to live there. Logan's an Orlando fan, so I was hoping his team would win something. It was just, you know, that would have been cool. Also, I really think purple and green kit matchup would have been great. Now, we did have still a really good kit matchup in pink and green. But I really think the purple and green would have really popped as a kit matchup. But that was the first game. So that was kind of a deflating time because it really felt like, and look, I don't think it's a conspiracy. I don't think, you know, I see people saying like Don Garber made the call, all that kind of stuff. I do just think the ref made a bad call. And I think VAR made a bad call by not making them overturn it. Saying it's not clear and obvious. I don't know. I look at it, I think that was clear and obvious. So that's not a penalty. But, you know, there's sometimes that subjective side of the game that sways things. I mean, Orlando had 70% of the possession. Miami had 30. Miami had more shots on goal, more shots total, but not by a lot. Not by a lot. Just a few. But that red card, the second yellow for Bracalo, really made a difference. And then Janssen got a red card at the end of the game as well. Seattle, by the way, did their business. They beat LA 2-0 without much controversy in that game. De La Vega scored a pretty great goal to get him there. And then De Rosario's kid, scores in the 57th minute to make it 2-0. Tolo got a red card for Seattle, but that was at Dignity Health Sports Park, and Seattle did the deed. Fast forward to Sunday evening. LA Galaxy and Orlando played the third place match, which LA Galaxy won 2-1. It was Marco Royce in the 9th minute. Ojeda in the 60th, but then just 7 minutes later, Paint Sill gets the game winner. It's a 2-1 victory for LA Galaxy, and that seals them a spot into the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Even though they're the bottom of the West, they get that third place finish in Leagues Cup after a tumultuous year in Major League Soccer, and they have something to show for it. Not a trophy, but just knowing that, okay, this year's we've been talking about it all year, that this year's kind of been a write-off, right? Injuries, just all that kind of stuff, kind of hangover from winning MLS Cup, blah, 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 blah. They're a team that has 6 MLS Cups. I think those fans are okay. Okay. But they go out there, they win third place. It sets them up for a CONCACAF Champions Cup berth. Maybe next year they can now kind of reset, get what they need, and push forward to go ahead and maybe make a run in that cup. So that's exciting for LA Galaxy fans. Bummer for Orlando. Really, I think that let down from the game against Miami, where you're playing for a final appearance. And then to go across country, you're down 2 men from the red cards. So, you know, they're not even in your squad for the game. You go out cross country to face LA and end up losing 2-1. They showed some fight, though. They equalized, but then gave it up not long after. So a little bit of bummer there. That led us to the main event, the Leagues Cup Finals, Sunday night. in Seattle at Lumen Field. It was a good one. It was a good one. We had a 3-0 finish. Looks a little bit more slanted than it was, right? Di Rosario scored in the 26th minute. Fantastic. Then it was, Miami had a couple of chances that you're like, oh, like Messi missed a chance. I forget who else missed a pretty clear chance. And that left us with Miami having 69% possession to Seattle's 31. They both had 11 shots, but here's the thing. Seattle had 6 shots on target while Miami had 1. The expected goals was 2.5 to 1.5, so it kind of finished around. Well, I mean, you would think Miami would have scored 1 then, but 2.7 for Seattle was accurate. They got 3. The fouls were pretty even, 11 to 12. Only 1 offsides the whole match. 2 yellow cards for Miami. Yeah, so that's how that started. Di Rosario, 26 minute, and then just holding on, right? Now, like I said, Miami only really had like 2 really clear-cut options. But then there's the clear penalty in the 84th minute or so, which steps up Christian Roldan. He has the ball. He's holding on to the ball. It looks like he's going to take this penalty. Then he passes it off to his brother, his younger brother, Alex Roldan, who converts in the 84th minute. And that pretty much sealed the deal there, 2-0. But for equal measure, or for, putting it to bed, Rothrock. That's right. It was his jersey night, go ahead and what was, they were like giving out Rothrock jerseys if you want to turn in your Messi Miami jersey at the store. They had almost 100 people do so, supposedly, by the way. Or they could do up to 100, but we saw a video of people trading it over, and Paul Rothrock puts the game away in the 89th minute to make it 3-0. The celebrations were going crazy. And yeah, I mean, look, this Seattle team had a lot of youth players on the field who've come through their system. They are one of the clubs that are at the forefront of that. We all remember DeAndre Yedlin, having been in their academy and getting signed to the team. We remember all of that. And then you have just these young players who've grown up in Seattle playing for their team. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about what MLS needs to reach that next level, which is young players like a Jordan Morris, right? Who, like Seattle wasn't really around when he was young. But I mean, I guess they have been at some level, right? But in Major League Soccer, they weren't when he was super young. But having he is now the all-time goal scorer for Seattle Sounders, right? Jordan Morris, all-time, all comps. Having some of these players that are now in their youth system be looking up to him, be like, and in the stands even, I want to be him. We're like, hey, you know what? I don't want this Messi jersey because I identify with Paul Rothrock more because he is, a Seattle player. He is, playing well. He's been playing really well this year. So let's go ahead and trade in this jersey where I hopped on the Messi train. But now maybe because of Messi, I watched more of my team and I fell in love with these players. Let me trade that jersey in. And the fact that they actually had people do that is a good sign for soccer in this country. And the fact that these, we have a club like Seattle who is at the forefront of everything since they entered the league in 2009. Crazy to say, that is 16 years ago. That is not. It both feels like a long time ago and not a long time ago that Seattle has been in the league. They are kind of what I've said this before. Really got me looking at the league. I mean, I would say what really got me looking at the league, 2007 Cup Final. I was there at RFK. It was New England versus Houston. Houston won their second in a row against the same team, right? It was back-to-back finals against New England. And I was there, Jimmy Eat World being the halftime show. I remember being there. And that was kind of like the first MLS game I think I've been to, or the first one I really remember, MLS Cup. 2008, I remember watching DC. I was rooting for DC at that time because they were the closest team, but I wasn't like super still into it at the time. And DC United was, they lost to the Crew in the playoffs. 2008. I remember watching that. I remember watching that game. Then 2009, it's like, oh, Seattle Sounders are joining the league. And, you know, I was a FIFA player at the time. And that's when I was really getting into FIFA as well. And green and blue are my favorite colors. Blue being my favorite, green being my second favorite. And having a jersey that had both of those colors on there, my parents always used to tell me, those colors don't match. And I'm like, well, now they do, because they are a soccer jersey. Right? The blue shorts with the green, they match. And it just looks good. And they had the Xbox logo. Of course, I was an Xbox player at the time. So it was all like this perfect fit of like, oh, I'll use them in my, you know, FIFA. I guess that would have been, if it was 09, I guess it would have been a FIFA 08 or maybe FIFA 9. It depends because MLS is on the different schedule. But anyway, I was playing with them when it'd be Major League Soccer, and they had, you know, like just Freddie Montero and, you know, great players that I'd be looking at. At one point, Freddie Lundberg was on the team. I forget what year that was. But, you know, it was fun. It was fun, you know, playing as them and having, like, you know, watching them. I'd watch them when they had games on. And then Philly joined in 2010. They were now the closest team to me. And I said, all right, I'm going to really focus fully on Major League Soccer and watch more games. And I'm going to join this, you know, I'm going to watch the team that's closest to me. And of course, Philly is my team. But Seattle has had a special place in my heart because of all of those things. And I was rooting for them this weekend. I was. It almost felt like if you were on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads, right? Because I posted all weekend on Sunday on all three of our accounts there. So you can follow us, Stateside Show, on all of those. It felt like a CONCACAF Champions Cup game where everybody is Team MLS versus a Liga MX team, but instead it was Seattle versus Miami. That's the vibe it felt like on Blue Sky Threads and Twitter over the weekend. Actually got a ton of likes on the posts when I made our usual post for champions that win a cup, and the usual post for the you know, we did an updated trophy cabinet for Seattle, all that kind of stuff. That stuff, oh my god, that did very well, especially on Threads and Blue Sky. And it really, especially, it really pushed it over the edge after Miami's reaction to it. But game finished 3-0. I want to focus before we get to the melee and stuff. Just what an incredible achievement this was for Seattle. Incredible. They're the first team in MLS to win the Champions Cup. And now they're the first team in MLS to have won every trophy in North America that they could win. We have you know what? Maybe I can see about putting the graphic up here on the screen. So if you're listening to if you're watching the video on the video version of the podcast, which is on YouTube, also on Spotify, and I guess anywhere that has video podcasts is where you can view this. I'm going to go ahead and share their updated trophy room post that I made because this is a big deal. Like we said, 2009 they entered the league. That is 16 years ago. I have to keep thinking that. It doesn't feel like that long ago. But it's 16 years ago. We've had a lot of expansion teams since then, but we've also had some downturn on some teams since then as well, right? Teams like LA Galaxy had gone a long time without winning stuff. And I'm going to go ahead and share the graphic I made here. This is their trophy room. 4 open cups. Remember they had that string back in like when they first joined the league that they won like 2 or 3 of these in a row. I was also in attendance when they beat my Philadelphia Union in the 2014, I believe it was. Right? We lost 2 in a row, 14 and 15. No, what? Right? 14 and 15. Yeah, because 13 I was down in Florida. So 14 and 15, we lose back-to-back Open Cup finals, where I'm in the stands, by the way, on both those, and we lose the other one in 2018. That was that was brutal. But it is what it is. So we had let me see winners. I gotta guarantee. I have to look at this up. I can't. I'm pretty sure it's 2014. Yeah, it was 2014. So they won 3 in a row, 9, 10, 11, and then runner up in 2012. No appearance in 2013. That's the year DC won when they were at the Wooden Spoon. And then they win in 2014 at Philly. So they have 4 wins, 1 runner up. 5 times they've reached that final. Then you're looking at their MLS Cups. 2016. 2019. They were the first of the I think Cascadia teams to win it, right? Because 2015, no, Portland may have won it in 2015. But they have 2016 and 2019, and they got the final in 2017 as well. Remember, that was when they played Toronto back-to-back in 16 and 17. They have the Supporter Shield from 2014. And then they have Leagues Cup from this year and the CONCACAF Champions League from 2022. That is 9 trophies. 9. In their 16-year history. 9 trophies. I looked up, okay, LA Galaxy is known as the team that probably has the most, right? DC is probably up there too. They have some trophies, but with LA having 6 MLS Cups, I'm pretty sure they're the ones that are ahead. So you have 6 MLS Cups for LA, 4 Supporter Shields, that's 10, 2 Open Cups, so that's 12, and then a CONCACAF Champions Cup from 2000, which is 6, 4, that's 10, 12, 13 cups. 13 cups for LA Galaxy in their 30-year history. Seattle Sounders are 4 trophies behind in half the time. Half the time. When we talk about team of the decade, depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about from 2020 to 2030, There's still some time. If you look at 2016 to 2025 right now, they've won 2 MLS Cups, a Champions League, and the Leagues Cup. That's 4 of their major trophies that they will have won in the last 10 years. 4 of 9. It's almost half. The Supporter Shield and the Open Cups were all 10 years ago. Since Metshers took over in 2016, like I said, they've won 2 MLS Cups, a Champions Cup, Leagues Cup. That's 4 of the 9. Like it's half the time of LA, and they're only 4 trophies behind them. And it doesn't seem like they're slowing down. Anytime we think that they're rebuilding or that they're gonna kind of have a down year, they might start off a little slow and then they surge. They surge again. So just shout out Seattle. The fans showed up. It was a packed final. It was just a fantastic showing for Major League Soccer in the Leagues Cup up until the 90th minute. When, surprise, surprise, the man who has bit people in the past, Luis Suarez, goes off and starts attacking Seattle players. Looks like one of the Seattle players gets punched. We have definite proof of what we see on video of Suarez spitting on a coach or the security member of the Seattle team. And the question it leaves us with, as all hell broke loose at the end here, is what is Major League Soccer's response? What are they supposed to do here? Because I've seen a lot of opinions on what they're supposed to do. Some of them seem kind of outlandish. Some of them seem like, okay, I could see that. It's just, here's from Tom Bogert. In the past, MLS has issued additional suspensions from other competitions. Because let's remember, this is the Leagues Cup. This is not MLS. RSL head coach Mike Petke received a 3-game suspension in MLS for an Leagues Cup outburst at a referee. Clint Dempsey has got the 3 extra games MLS suspension after he ripped up a ref's notebook in the Open Cup. Remember that? In the CBA, there's a section about MLS and MLSPA that the league can impose discipline for conduct related to any game or tournament in which the player competes. Now, will they? That is the main question as we head further into the week. I haven't seen any real statements from Miami that what they've did is unacceptable. The Leagues Cup organizing committee from Tom Bogert is still reviewing the melee after the Inter Miami loss to Seattle. So it definitely seems like they'll get Leagues Cup suspension. But MLS, will they step in and do so? I don't know. If they don't, it'll look bad. Right? It'll look bad. I think there should be a suspension, especially seeing that Mike Petke got some just for discussing with getting upset with the ref. They got 3 games for that. There's been other spitting incidents in the past where they've gotten 3 games. So I don't know if that means there should be, with 3 games in MLS and 3 Leagues Cup. Because here's the thing: we don't even know if Suarez is going to play in the Leagues Cup next year. We don't even know we don't really know what's going on, right? He could leave whenever he wants. He could retire, whatever. So I don't know. I don't really know where this is going to go. I do think there should be some suspensions in the league as well as the Leagues Cup. And whatever happens, we'll talk about it here next week. But I didn't want to spend too much time on that because I know that's the stuff that everybody's talking about and reviewing the footage and stuff. But I think what gets lost in the sauce there then is just the tremendous job Seattle has done year in and year out of being a competitive team. If you are a Seattle Sounders fan, there's not many years where you're thinking like, oh, we really sucked this year. Always in it. Always in it. And just at the forefront. This is a good trivia question in the future. What MLS team has won every trophy in North America? Top flight. It's Seattle. It's Seattle. So congrats to the Sounders fans. The Champions Cup spots from here go to LA Galaxy, they go to Miami, and they go to Seattle. Real quick, I'll just kind of go over the standings for the league's play before we wrap it up here on an episode that's mostly focused here on the Leagues Cup. Over the weekend, Philadelphia beat Cincy in a huge matchup in the East, 1-0. That keeps them 5 points above Cincinnati now, and they've clinched a playoff spot. Philadelphia has. And they, of course, keep pace with San Diego to stay above them by 1 point in the race for the Supporters' Shield. We'll see how that exciting race continues. Charlotte beat the Revs 2-1. That puts them up to 3rd place in the East with 50 points. DC beat NYCFC 2-1. Red Bulls and Columbus Crew drew 0-0. Toronto and Montreal drew 1-1. Austin beat San Jose 3-1. Minnesota drew with Portland 1-1. They came from behind in that one to draw. Atlanta beat Nashville in a shocker. Absolute shocker. Nashville in 4th place. Atlanta all the way down in 12th with 26 points. Almost half the points of Nashville. And they pull out the win at Geodis Park, by the way. SKC beat the Rapids 4-2. Houston beat St. Louis 3-2. And that was all of the MLS action except for San Diego did beat LAFC 2-1. I was watching that game. That was Suns' first home debut, right? But San Diego with Dreyer hitting the game winner, winning that one 2-1. We got that weird stuff going on where there are games going on with the international window. There's 3 games this Saturday, all at 8:30. Chicago Fire facing off against New England. Houston facing off against the Galaxy. St. Louis facing off against Dallas. Then on Sunday at 7 o'clock, it's SKC versus Austin. So just a few games as some of those teams are making up some of those missing games, I guess. Yeah. All right. I think Minnesota is the other team that has clinched a playoff spot. So we have 3 teams that have clinched a playoff spot. Philly, San Diego, and Minnesota have all clinched playoff spots. We're still looking for the remaining teams to clinch their way here, as most teams have played 29 games with 5 games to go. So we'll see how that goes. But you can follow us at Stateside Show on all of our social medias. Thank you all for watching and listening along with us. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you next time.